Rayquaza is coming back into Pokemon Go from February 22nd until March 1st, and it's bringing a brand new attack with it, Breaking Swipe. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about just how good Breaking Swipe is. Spoiler alert, Breaking Swipe is pretty phenomenal in this game. And I'm also going to be talking about what it means for Rayquaza in both raids and PvP. And I think this is a situation where the raiders can actually feel kind of good about an update. Starting out with Breaking Swipe stats, in the raid side of things, we have 35 damage for 33 energy cost, which isn't that impressive. What is really impressive about it is that its damage window is a blindingly fast 0.27 seconds, which means you push that button, you're going to get the damage in. And it also has a low cooldown of 0.8 seconds. So overall, low power, but it is a very powerful and formidable attack when it comes to raids. When it comes to the PvP side of things, we got 50 damage for 35 energy cost, which is pretty good, but not that outstanding. What is outstanding is that it has this level of power and a 100% chance to decrease the opponent's attack stat by one stage for a 35 energy cost attack with good base power. So in PvP, this is looking like a pretty standout attack as well. But what does this all mean for Rayquaza? Checking out the DPS TDO spreadsheet here on GamePress, you can see that Outrage outpaces Breaking Swipe by 0.4 DPS on average. Now that doesn't look too good, and overall Outrage is going to be the better attack for raids, but one thing I will say in Breaking Swipe's favor is Breaking Swipe is only slightly worse than it, and it is way faster than Outrage. Outrage has a 2.5 second damage window, not the cooldown. The cooldown's like over 3 seconds long, but the damage window is at 2.5 seconds. So there's a lot of scenarios where you hit the Outrage button and your Rayquaza gets KO'd before that damage can register. I know way back in the early gym defense days, my Dragonite would actually get locked into Outrage and would get KO'd by Blissey's more often than not because of this, damage window, animation lock kind of situation. So Breaking Swipe is a lot more flexible for Rayquaza. So overall, is it worth using like an Elite TM or powering up a whole new Rayquaza just to take advantage of Breaking Swipe? For me personally, not so much, but for people that are true Rayquaza enthusiasts, I think it could be useful, could be worth it, right? And then there is also the ability to combo these attacks together by unlocking a second charge attack and using both Breaking Swipe and Outrage. In the early portion of the fight for your Rayquaza, you can just spam Outrage, and then when you get to that point where you kind of smell a KO coming, Rayquaza's days are numbered, well then you can just start spamming Breaking Swipe to, improve your average DPS because you'll get that damage in before Rayquaza gets KO'd because of the long damage window on Outrage. So to break that down, wrap it up in a nice bow, Breaking Swipe is slightly worse than Outrage, but they're about on par with each other, and if you're really, really into Rayquaza, both. Moving on to Rayquaza in PvP with Breaking Swipe. Overall, historically, Rayquaza has had three things working against it, right? One, it's really slow. Two, it's really glassy. And then three, it's got no real coverage outside of, Dragon and Flying. It can't hit Steel type Pokemon, right? Big problem for a lot of Dragon types. What does Breaking Swipe do for Rayquaza? Well, it helps the speed issue. Doesn't really do a lot for the tankiness because it's so glassy. You're probably only going to get one or two Breaking Swipes anyways, right? So it helps a little bit on the tanky issue. And then when it comes to coverage, it does absolutely nothing for Rayquaza for coverage. So if you compare Rayquaza with Breaking Swipe to Dragonite, for instance, in the Great League, the Ultra League, the Master League, Dragonite's going to be pulling ahead because it's got that superpower for coverage, and it is tankier than the Rayquaza too. So sorry Rayquaza, things just aren't looking too up for you right now. I think this does open the door though for Rayquaza to be better in the future. It does fix that speed issue, which means that if it gets a coverage option like Earth Power or Earthquake, well, now it has a way to bait into it effectively, right? And if it were to get Earth Power or Earthquake, it could potentially be on the level of or outpace Dragonite. Another spicy option to think about too is V-Create. Yeah, the 15th anniversary Rayquaza in the main series games had V-Create. Now, I don't know if we've had an instance of a event move from the main series games making its way into Pokemon Go on a Pokemon, right? But the door is slightly cracked open there for us to get a V-Create Rayquaza. And I did run some simulations on Breaking Swipe V-Create Rayquaza in the Great League and in the Master League. And in the Great League, it was like a interesting alternative to Dragonite. Like, I wouldn't say straight up better, but like it's interesting. It does stuff a little bit different, can be a little bit more consistent against some steel type Pokemon. And then looking at it in the Master League, it has the potential to be really freaking good in the Master League with Breaking Swipe and V-Create. I mean, Rayquaza could be really freaking good with Breaking Swipe and Earth Power to begin with. So V-Create would just be that extra level of slap, right? That could push it over the edge there. So a lot of hopium huffing going on this side of the field, hoping for a V-Create Rayquaza. But like I said, Earth Power, Earthquake, that could be just enough to make Rayquaza worthwhile in at least the Master League. Now, if you are wanting to pre-prepare for the future that is V-Create Breaking Swipe Rayquaza for the Great League, or any sort of future update to Rayquaza in the Great League, I want you to know that you have to get a Research Rayquaza to make it happen. You have to trade for a Research Rayquaza to get the level and the IVs low enough to actually use it in the Great League. So it's kind of a far-fetched plan to begin with. And if you do find somebody to queue up for a good friend trade to try to get the Great League Rayquaza, if you are on that insane adventure, there are 245 different IV combinations out of 3,375 that can fit into the Great League. What that means is that you're going to have to do about 10 to 20 trades for a 50% to 75% probability to get a Great League Rayquaza. For a 90% probability, it'd take about 30, 31 trades. So you kind of have to steel yourself, prepare yourself mentally for dropping a lot of Stardust to try to get this thing in the Great League. And the result is, well, right now it's worse than like nearly every other comparable dragon type Pokemon in the Great League. So the payoff isn't exactly there. But if you want to pre-prepare for the insane, absurd future that could be a V-Create Rayquaza, well, may as well get on that market now before it gets too hot and everybody tries to gobble them up or something, right? But not exactly worth it to begin with. And then when you consider the probability and all the Stardust and finding people to trade and then trading them something that they're going to want for those Rayquazas is kind of a lot, right? So that about wraps it up for Breaking Swipe Rayquaza. When it comes to raids, it's a pretty interesting option. It's not the most standout thing in the universe, but it is a slight upgrade for Rayquaza, all things considered here. And then when it comes to PvP, it's not a huge upgrade for Rayquaza, or like it's a huge upgrade, but it's not an upgrade that like matters for Rayquaza, but it does open the door. All it needs now is a little bit of coverage, right? And then Rayquaza could be useful in at least the Master League. So the future is now open for Rayquaza. Thinking about the future being open, I guess the future is open for other Pokemon getting Breaking Swipe as well. Breaking Swipe is not a signature attack. It is not Dragon Ascent. It is not exclusive to Rayquaza. So other Pokemon could get Breaking Swipe in the future. We are also approaching the next season of GBL, where usually these big move overhaul updates kind of happen. Other Pokemon could get Breaking Swipe. If you are interested in seeing a bread and butter future potential of Breaking Swipe on other Pokemon type video, drop a comment. Let me know if you're interested, and make sure to subscribe to SwagTips so when that video comes out, you'll be able to see it faster than you would otherwise. Please subscribe to me. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. Ever since I painted my background purple, I've been glowing in a really weird way. And I did some research, and there's no real way for me to fix this glow in a way that looks good without putting lights behind me now, which means I have to figure out that lighting situation. So, and I'm pretty slow to do stuff in general, so you're going to have to deal with a weird yellow glowing Ryan for probably a couple weeks here. Hope you like it.